Welcome to Getting to Know Chronicle. I'm John Stoner, a member of the Adoption Engineering team at Google Cloud, and today we're going to build a multi-event rule with a particular focus on ordering events for our detection. Our previous multi-event rule video talked about the basics of setting up the rule. This time we're going to discuss the time window a bit further, UDM time fields, and event operators that can all be used to order our events in a detection. By default, Chronicle uses a windowing technique called a hop. A hop essentially gathers all of the events that meet our rule criteria, no matter the time that it occurred. Now, that may be fine in some circumstances, but in some detections, we want to know that event A occurred, and then event B occurred, and so on. Well, using UDM time fields and event operators, we can easily make this happen. Chronicle can also utilize sliding windows as well, but we'll save that for another time. Let's build a detection that informs us when a Windows user account is created, logged on, and then deleted. Since our last video had a rule with two different kinds of events, I figured we could dial it up and add a third event. Now, because we are still getting used to building multi-event rules, we're not going to be adding in a bunch of additional criteria for each event, but you can certainly add additional criteria to tighten your events further. Let's start by naming our rule Windows Short-Term Account Use and add our meta section to it. In the event section, let's start by adding the three kinds of events we are looking to detect: user creation, user login, and user deletion. Like our other example, we are looking for the existence of all three of these event variables in our rule, so let's go ahead and add them to our condition section now. From there, we need to determine a way to join these events and find a common value or values. For our example, we're going to go ahead and use a single join between a field in the creation event and the login event, and then the same join between the login event and the deletion event. To understand what fields I have available to me for my joins and event criteria, I'm going to use UDM search. Based on my search, it looks like the common field across all three events is the target.user.userid field. While we can use the UDM field name, I like using placeholder variables for my join, so I will use that. Each event type, defined by a unique event variable, will have a field mapped to that placeholder variable, and with that, the join's in place. As previously discussed, our match section is formatted as a match variable over a time window, ranging from 1 minute to 48 hours. Previously, we used a match variable that was the same as the field that we joined on. This time, I'd like to group my detection around a different field, the principal user ID field, and even more specifically, the user who created the account in the first place. To match on that field, we will create a placeholder variable for the field, and then use it in the match section, and we want our entire sequence to occur within 1 hour from creation to deletion. If you build a similar rule for your environment, you could modify this window to whatever time range you see fit. Let's talk about the sequencing of our events for a minute. In our case, there's a logical flow. An account is created, it logs in, and it's deleted. Because our time windowing is a hop that collects all of the events that meet the criteria within the defined window, but doesn't take into account a specific order, we want to go ahead and enforce an order in our rule. While we could use a sliding window, I'm going to show you how easy it is to enforce the order in a rule with a hop window. We are going to do this by adding criteria using the event time along with the operators greater than and less than. Now, we know that the create metadata event time seconds will have a value less than the login event time, so we can start by adding create.metadata.event_time.seconds is less than login.metadata.event_time.seconds in our event section. Similarly, we can do the same between our login and our delete events. From a formatting perspective, you might be wondering if the criteria has to be in between the events, or can it be anywhere in the event section? It's a great question. They can be anywhere, but I like the events grouped together so that when I read the create to login sections and then the login to delete sections, those linkages form basically a bridge. All right, with all of that in place, our syntax is looking good and we can test our rule. When we do test our rule, We can see that we have a single detection and it appears that Tim Smith created a new user. If we expand our detection, we can see the underlying events, and if we add the columns principal hostname, source hostname, target user user ID, since that's our join field, as well as the extension auth details and extension auth mechanism, we can see that Alice was created by Tim Smith, and it looks like the time from creation to deletion was about 50 minutes. We can see Alice logged into a Windows server, which was likely an RDP session since it is denoted as a remote interactive authentication, as well as authentications to the AD server from the Windows server. We could also see Tim deleted the user account. We could further expand this rule by adding process launch events to see what activities were performed after the login but before the deletion using the same method we just discussed. We just need to make sure that we have the correct UDM fields to join the others. When you're enforcing an order to your multi-event rules, remember that our default windowing is the hop, which is gathering the event within the defined window, but not actually ordering them. To order the events, we can use the UDM time field like metadata.event_timestamp.seconds along with the operators like greater than and less than. Remember that the hop window in the match section has a range from 1 minute to 48 hours. If you want to learn more about Chronicle, check out my blog series called New to Chronicle for more handy tips. We have a number of community YARA-L detections at our GitHub site and are continually adding more. And don't forget to engage the security community at googlecloudcommunity.com. Thanks.